This is my presentation for the South African Principals Association Leadership Breakfast. My topic is the benefit of PLCs and CoPs. It fits nicely into the theme of leading through change because PLCs and CoPs are school improvement strategies. I would like to motivate everybody around these improvement ideas by saying that with a lot of effort, a little bit of blood, sweat and tears, and much collaboration among staff members, there will be an improvement of results. Let's get started first with some kind of definition. Assume that this slide portrays all your staff members in your school. I invite you to call your staff a professional learning community. And that would not be a far-fetched idea because if you look at the P, we are all professionals. We are all registered with SACE and we are all bound by the code of ethics. And SACE promotes lifelong learning. So the L is covered because the L speaks to teacher learning. The C is us learning in community, in concert with each other, in collaboration with each other. The PLC is all about collaborative teacher learning to improve results. Now, it is very difficult to learn in a group of 50 or 30 or even 20. Ideally, in a school, you want to set up lots of teams, which happens anyway, and these teams are all grouped together for a specific purpose, whether they are subject orientated like math, science, English, etc., or they are grade level orientated like grade 1, 3, 7, or 9. We want to call these teams communities of practice. To call it a community of practice, we must make sure that the agenda in these teams center around teacher learning collaboratively. A community of practice is when you have a group of people with a common purpose working collaboratively to improve teaching practice. Now, with many teams around the school, you want to disperse leadership in the school as well. It is very important for us if we want to change traditional subject teams into communities of practice within a professional learning community framework to ensure that our agenda is not informed by bullet points of 10 things that are due. It's important that the agenda is framed by what learning activities we will undertake in order to improve practice. So let's summarize. What are the PLCs and CoPs 5 big ideas that I had just demonstrated? 1, it's a school improvement approach. It is based on collaboration of teachers for the purposes of teacher learning and leadership development. And ultimately, we want to improve ourselves as professionals in order to improve the learning outcomes of our children, of our students. We want to improve school results. Another way of looking at it is we want to amplify human capital in our organization. We want to move from me capital to we capital. Further, we want to move away from the concept of being isolated to working collaboratively. It is a very inspiring idea to consider that we are capable of working and learning together to improve our practice. Think about it. Even in the most impoverished schools with the most dire circumstances, you still find passionate and dedicated teachers that are able to build their learners and produce remarkable success with the little that they have. What we want to do is to acknowledge those who achieve and excel because these teachers show us what is possible. But rather than keep that pocket of excellence localized, we want to share it and spread it across the school. So how would you get started? Let me present to you this model of group formation that comes from Tuckman. All right, you can see that we speak about forming, storming, norming, and performing. In terms of forming, you would bring a group of individuals together that have a common purpose. All grade 1 teachers have a common purpose. All mathematics teachers have a common purpose, and that would be to improve teaching and learning in their particular domain of interest. Just bringing people together does not guarantee success. When you bring people together, there is likely to be conflict. Watch the arrowheads pointing to each other. We are likely to butt heads. There may be hibernators, there may be dominators, there may be apathy, and we have now entered the storming stage where there's a lot of conflict. Thus, the role of the facilitator of the team or the team leader is very important. What is also important is the professionalism of all the teachers. If we can work together, we can move out of conflict-based storming to brainstorming, which is a much more positive approach to any particular problem area that we wish to improve on. If you look at the norming phase, you will see that all the arrows are now pointed in one direction, which is a wonderful thing. It's almost like an aha moment in team formation where members get together and say, okay, I can see what we need to do. Let's do this. And everybody starts working towards a common purpose. What happens here is that there is a clear theory of change that people understand that they wish to embark on. And it can be shown in this simple chart. Basically, they will start to set goals and plan together, and then act on those goals, reflect and see whether their strategies are improving, and then adjust in a continuous cycle so that they can constantly improve on what they are doing. I also like to put it this way. We do like to speak a lot as teachers, but we should really get to the point of setting our goals and say what we are going to do, and then back it up very quickly with action in doing what we say. It would be good then to move on to the stage of proving it via our continued action and reflection, and then constantly being on a path of continuous improvement. And this will help us to move on to the stage of performing, where, as you can see depicted by the green arrow, we have merged into one common purpose, working for the benefit of school improvement in whatever grade, level, or subject team that we've been placed. And remember, whatever each of these mini communities of practice do feeds into the whole professional learning community as adding value to the learning goals of the organization. If teams or communities of practice are stuck on the forming or storming stage, they were never a community of practice in the first place. However, if this team is stuck on a forming and storming stage and there is no way to progress beyond that stage, it would become very important for that team to adjourn and perhaps regroup so that we could meet organizational goals. Now, when we get to the performing stage, a lot is said about collaboration and working together. Now, collaboration is a word that is thrown around a lot. I just want to get through some terms that mask as collaboration, but are just mere steps towards real collaboration. When we speak of networking, for example, we're just talking about exchanging ideas, maybe sometimes even just exchanging phone numbers. When we speak of coordination, we're adding to that by saying, or by coordinating activities and saying, okay, you do this and I do this, and we share ideas that way. This is the coordination stage. Now, if we add on to that by including the sharing of resources, I share a lesson plan with you, you share a policy with me, we have now moved higher onto the stage of cooperation. When we get to the stage of collaboration, we want to be doing all of the preceding things, but at the same time, make sure that whatever we are doing is improving the other person as well as ourselves for personal benefit. It must give you personal job satisfaction that you are helping to uplift your colleague, who then collaborates with you to uplift the school. Now we are collaborating. I also like this picture, and it's worth looking at different pictures on the model, just because collaboration is so confused with many other words. In this particular graph, we are depicting goal orientation against commitment on the x-axis, and various words are positioned on this graph. Let's start with conversation and communication. It features quite low on the collaboration scale. I believe conversation and communication are essential starting points in collaboration. When we progress to coordination and cooperation, we are moving higher on the commitment and goal orientation level, and we start to share ideas with other people and more tangible artifacts like lesson plans, rubrics, policies, procedures, and any way that we believe could enhance learning in our own classrooms and in other classrooms. When we get to the collaboration stage, we are saying that this stage is a very important stage because it is the highest stage on both the goal orientation and commitment level. At this stage, you want to use and maximize all preceding steps, as in conversation and communication, including the complementary contributions that would have come out of coordination and cooperation. But you want to now move on to the area of co-construction of knowledge. You want to further progress to developing in your organization collective improvement intelligences. Ultimately, the goal does not go away. We want to do whatever we can to enhance the capacity of all colleagues in the organization so as to improve learning outcomes, so as to improve results. So then, what would real collaboration look like? What are some of those examples of co-construction of knowledge that we need to be pursuing in our teams when we are meeting? Here are just a few examples. One of which is common lesson planning, where we sit together to plan a lesson. It's an advancement on coordination and cooperation because I'm not just giving you something to implement, neither am I taking from you, but we are sitting down to collaboratively plan a lesson. The same goes for the collaborative design of rubrics. Once again, it's not just the giving and receiving of work generated by others. Rather, it is a co-construction of a rubric that we believe will yield valid and reliable results. One thing I do like like, and I love this picture, it shows in Beijing teachers answering the same paper as the learners. And I often wonder if teachers sat and answered a paper, will they score better than the learners or as good at all? The reality in South Africa is that some teachers may even fail the very paper they expect their learners to write. Nothing stops us, especially if two of us are sharing a subject, that if I set a paper, you sit and write it as a learner, and then we can mark it together. This is a very good topic, especially in mathematics, where we sit together to analyze student errors. If you look at A, the learner has made a specific mistake that led to an incorrect answer. And the same goes for B, and the same goes for C. If we collaborate and as teachers we figure out what are the learner's thought processes that lead them to incorrect answers, we can then incorporate those insights proactively into the teaching process to prevent those problems. It also highlights how we can use learners' mode of thinking to actually get them to learn better. A very important thing for teachers is that even though we speak collaboration, we teach in individual classrooms where teaching practice, actual practical teaching practice, is not made tacit to everybody. When you sit together as teachers and you say, okay, here's a lesson demonstration, I'm going to do a lesson demonstration. I will show you how I teach fractions. You show me how you do a comprehension passage in class. This is also an example of co-construction of knowledge, because then we can give each other feedback as to what we as teachers are not aware of as we teach. These are just a few examples where you can co-construct knowledge. The literature on this is diverse, but each of these are very, very difficult for teachers to do. It bumps against resistance and long-held practices and ideals of working in isolation. It also fights against teachers' low emotional intelligence in giving and receiving constructive feedback, and that because teaching is such an emotional job, we don't want to hurt each other. We want to rather sweep things under the carpet. And while I can understand this totally, the goal is to rather build trust in colleagues, help us to see that we have each other's back and not make mistakes in class, because these end up being collateral damage for the learners, which we want to avoid at all costs. I have tried to promote collaboration at my school for many years. This year, I came up with the idea that I'm going to sell the PLC and CoP concept as a social media platform. What I simply say is that the professional learning community and the community of practice can be seen as a social media platform because it is born out of social learning theories. So I invite you very eagerly so to subscribe to this notion of community and collaborative learning in your schools, and to get all team members to turn on the notification bell whenever there are learning opportunities. Turning on the notification bell means I want to be informed and I want to actively participate in it. Furthermore, we want to encourage teachers to identify what really is best practice in the school, not only to just like it and share it, but to implement it. Ultimately, we want to get to a stage where we can all provide constructive feedback, whether we are giving constructive feedback or receiving constructive feedback on our work, so that we can improve our practice and contribute to school improvement as a whole. Make no mistake, not everybody is going to jump on board immediately. And just like any social media platform, the comments section can be quite salty. In addition to that, you're going to find a lot of resistance where people may want to mute you, block you, report you, unfriend you, unfollow you, etc. I think for me, I would go back to the P. We are professionals, and I would sell it as that. We are professionals, and by virtue of being professionals, we are duty bound to constantly improve in our profession and to work on your staff of 20 and make sure that you slowly make inroads to more and more staff members buying into it, and to building the capacity of all your leaders that you've dispersed around the school so that you can have more engagement and more positive influence being spread around the school. The job of a PLC and a COP is never done. It is constantly a matter of working together in progress. The good thing about it is that you are working together, and we are inspired further by this notion that the road to success is always under construction, and by this African proverb that clearly states, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. Let's take our children very far using the PLC and COP improvement strategy. Thank you.